Isabella Gonzalez was just a 19-year-old from Carrollton, Texas. She was assigned to the 1st Battalion, 57th Air Defense Artillery Regiment, Air Defense. Her entire job, the thing the Army trained her for, was stopping incoming missiles and drones from killing people. But that same girl was killed by an incoming Iranian missile. But she wasn't alone. Iran killed 17 U.S. soldiers in the Gulf that day. They celebrated it as a huge win. But revenge started brewing in the command center. And when the annihilating action took place, Iran realized how grave the blunder was it committed. On a Saturday in northern Iraq, an American soldier walked out to a patch of dirt to blow something up. Standard job. An Iranian Shahed drone had come in the night before and been shot down. Wreckage on the ground. Unexploded ordnance inside it. So you rig a controlled detonation and you make the dangerous thing safe. He didn't come back. Let that land for a second. Iran killed an American soldier with a drone that America had already destroyed. A weapon that costs somewhere in the tens of thousands of dollars, already shot out of the sky, already a pile of scrap, and it still took a life on its way out. Here's the analogy that unlocks this whole video. Imagine your neighbor is throwing rocks at your house. Cheap rocks, endless rocks, and your response is to shoot each one down with a guided missile that costs more than your house. You will win every single exchange. You will also go broke. That's the Iran war. That's been the Iran war for 5 months. And here's where everything you think you know falls apart. Everyone watching the headlines sees a superpower flattening a broken country. Trump on camera saying Iran has lost almost everything militarily. That they've got some missiles left, some drones, not much manufacturing. And on paper, he's not wrong. Iran's supreme leader is dead. Its defense minister is dead. Its Navy chief, its intelligence chief, its national security secretary, dead. But the country running out of ammunition first isn't Iran. It's the United States. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the most powerful military on Earth spent 5 months winning and ended up signing a deal it swore it would never sign, while its closest allies quietly built a security alliance that doesn't include it. We'll get to that alliance. It was signed 2 days ago in Mecca, and it changes the map. The attack Iran did was brutal. Isabella's friends describe her as outgoing, spontaneous, someone who loved to dance. One of them told CBS News Texas that Isabella wanted people to see her as brave. She left for boot camp exactly 1 year before she was killed. 1 year. That's the entire length of her military career, from the day she got on the bus to the day her name appeared in a Pentagon casualty release. Sergeant Angel Rampersad, 28, from Ozone Park, Queens, enlisted in 2019, listed as missing before they confirmed she was gone. First Lieutenant Tyler Feehan, 25, from Iwa Beach, Hawaii, joined the Hawaii Army National Guard at 18. 3 soldiers, 1 air base in Jordan, 1 weekend. And there's a bureaucratic detail here that's almost too dark to be real. On paper, all 3 were supporting Operation Inherent Resolve. That's the anti-ISIS mission. It was created in 2014. When it started, Isabella Gonzalez was 7 years old. She was killed in a war with Iran while formally assigned to a war against ISIS that began when she was in 2nd grade. Nobody updated the paperwork. The paperwork just kept going. Now, I need you to understand who did this, because if you write Iran off as a punching bag, the rest of this makes no sense. On February 28th, Iran got hit with one of the most surgically brutal opening strikes in modern military history. Israeli and American planners had spent months feeding false signals to satellites. At one point, Israel's top generals drove their official cars home from headquarters at night so overhead imagery would show an empty, sleepy base, then came back without them. 3 separate gatherings of senior Iranian officials were struck within about 30 seconds of each other. Ali Khamenei, the man who'd run Iran since 1989, was killed on day 1. Any normal state collapses. Iran declared 40 days of mourning, named a new supreme leader inside a week, and kept firing. Within 10 days, American commanders were reporting Iran's missile launch rate had dropped around 90%. 90%. That's a knockout punch in every doctrine ever written. That was 5 months ago. Iran is still shooting. So no, this isn't a bully beating up a kid. This is a decapitated state that reorganized itself around one single idea, and that idea is the reason your grocery bill went up. More on that in 90 seconds. Quick thing. Stories like this one, where the numbers don't flatter anybody and there's no clean hero, get quietly buried by the algorithm because they're not advertiser friendly. Hitting the like button is 1 second of your life and it's free, and it's the only reason independent reporting like this survives. Do that and let's keep going. Iran had one idea. It wasn't the American mainland. It was never going to be the American mainland. It was a stretch of water between 20 and 40 miles wide. Roughly a fifth of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran sits on the entire northern shore of it, and on March 4th, Iran shut it. The International Energy Agency called it the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. Not since Ukraine, not since 2008 in history. Analysis out of the Dallas Fed put it at 2 to 3 times larger than the 1973 oil shock, the one that gave America gas lines, rationing, and a decade of stagflation your parents still complain about. Brent crude blew past $120 a barrel. Qatar Energy declared force majeure, legal language for we physically cannot deliver. Gulf production dropped by more than 10 million barrels a day. Vietnam had panic buying at the pumps. And in the United States, the average price of a gallon of gas crossed $4. That's the actual weapon, not the drones, the choke point. Because here's the thing about a strait, you don't have to hold it, you just have to make it too dangerous to use. That's an infinitely cheaper problem than defending it. And it brings us to the mistake that's going to define this entire war in the history books. A mistake nobody made on purpose because it's just math. Iran's signature weapon is the Shahed one-way attack drone. Lawnmower engine, warhead, GPS. Cheap enough to build by the thousand. The American answer is layered missile defense. Patriot, THAAD. Systems so good they've intercepted an overwhelming majority of everything Iran has thrown. Genuinely astonishing engineering. Each interceptor costs millions of dollars. Each drone costs a rounding error. Now run that for 5 months. The Center for Strategic and International Studies estimates America went into this war with roughly 2,200 modern Patriot interceptors and 452 THAAD missiles. As of a July report, the estimates are somewhere around 800 Patriots and around 250 THAADs left. CNN, citing sources familiar with a Pentagon inventory assessment, reported the U.S. has burned through nearly 80% of its THAAD stock and about half its Patriots, with senior commanders privately calling the munitions picture dangerously low. CSIS assessed that more than half the global Patriot stockpile went in the first 39 days. The Pentagon disputes the framing. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth publicly told CNN their Chiron was not true and to be ashamed of itself. The White House says the military has everything it needs, but watch what they did instead of what they said. The department signed deals to triple Patriot production and quadruple THAAD output. You don't quadruple a production line for a problem that doesn't exist, and you don't cancel a planned major strike on Iran, which Trump did on August 1st, while insisting you have massive amounts of everything. Which brings us to the strangest pattern of this entire war. Hold that thought, because it's the key to why the peace talks aren't working. 5 months of this war run on a loop, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Escalate, threaten annihilation, set a deadline, announce a deal is imminent, cancel, repeat. On April 7th, Trump posted that a whole civilization would die that night, never to be brought back. Amnesty International's Secretary General said the statement may constitute a threat to commit genocide. With 2 hours left on his own ultimatum, he announced a 2-week ceasefire instead. That ceasefire produced the highest-level U.S.-Iran talks since 1979, 21 hours in Islamabad, mediated by Pakistan. It collapsed. Then a memorandum in June, where Iran agreed to reopen the strait. That collapsed too, over something almost comically small. The two sides couldn't agree on which routes ships should take. Iran fired on vessels using the American-approved lane. America restarted the bombing. Iran's parliament speaker and chief negotiator Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf summarized the American approach on X in 4 words: theater diplomacy on loop. A former U.S. diplomat put the problem plainly to Al Jazeera. Iran has concluded it can't count on anything Washington says. When you threaten to annihilate someone 5 or 6 times and back down 5 or 6 times, you haven't built leverage. You've built a reputation. And now the part that reframes everything, because none of this started in February. In 1953, a US and UK-backed coup removed Iran's elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh after he nationalized the country's oil. In 1988, an American warship hit an Iranian mine, and the US Navy destroyed much of Iran's fleet in a single day. Months later, the US shot down an Iranian civilian airliner, killing everyone aboard. Here's the whoa moment. Iran's ballistic missile program, the thing this entire war is nominally about, exists because of the 1980s. During the Iran-Iraq War, Iraq rained missiles on Iranian cities. Iran had no modern air force because sanctions. The United States backed Iraq, so Iran built missiles, not as ambition, as the only answer available. Every single missile that landed in Jordan, in Bahrain, in Kuwait, is the descendant of a program that started because a previous generation of Iranians had no way to stop the bombs. And one more scene from this war you probably never heard because it happened 4,000 miles from the front. An Iranian frigate, the Iris Dina, was sailing home from an international naval exercise in India, the kind of exercise where participating ships carry no ammunition. A US submarine sank it off the coast of Sri Lanka. Iran says 104 sailors died. It was the first ship sunk by a submarine in combat since the Falklands, the first by an American submarine since the Second World War. That's the scale of what's happening. And we haven't even gotten to the part that costs you money, what you actually lose. Hegseth told lawmakers the war has cost about $37.5 billion. Multiple sources say the real figure is far higher, but the bill you're going to pay isn't in that number. Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas Research models a Hormuz closure lasting 1 quarter and finds it adds roughly 0.6 percentage points to U.S. headline inflation for 2026. And it's stickier than that because gas prices are slow to fall even after a war ends. Bloomberg Economics modeled oil at $170 a barrel as a straight stagflationary shock, the kind that reshapes central bank policy and, they noted, U.S. midterm elections. Translation: this war is a line item in your rent, your groceries, and your interest rate. It doesn't matter whether you follow the news, it's already in your bank account. Now, the part almost nobody's connected. Patriot interceptors aren't an American resource. They're a global one. The same missiles being fired over Jordan and Bahrain are the missiles Ukraine uses to stop Russian ballistic strikes. A stockpile dangerously low for Washington is a stockpile that leaves launchers in Kyiv running empty. And in May, the Trump administration announced an additional $25 billion in Patriot sales to Kuwait, Bahrain, the UAE, and Qatar, allies who are now openly worried they won't be able to intercept the retaliation that America's strikes trigger. Think about that arrangement for 1 second. You get bombed because American forces are on your soil. You buy American missiles to survive it. The missiles are back-ordered because America used them. And what did all of it buy? South of the Natanz enrichment complex, there's a mountain the Iranians call Ku'e-Kolan Gaz-La, Pickaxe Mountain. Iran started digging into it in 2020. The facility inside sits roughly 100 meters down, under solid granite. It survived the 2025 strikes. It has survived this entire war. The IAEA has never been inside it, not once. And after the attacks began, Iran informed the agency that normal inspections were, in its words, no longer workable, leaving inspectors unable to verify what Iran has or where it is. Israeli intelligence believes centrifuges were moved into that mountain last fall. Trump has said the U.S. doesn't have it on record. He's also said repeatedly that America will hit it, that there's not a thing Iran can do about it. Here's the bind. Before February, international inspectors had at least partial visibility into Iran's program. Now they have effectively none. And the material, whatever exists, is under 100 meters of rock designed specifically to survive the bombs America owns. A war launched to guarantee Iran never builds a nuclear weapon has produced an Iran nobody can see. And that's not even the biggest strategic loss. That happened 48 hours ago. On Friday, in Mecca, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan signed the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement. An attack on one is an attack on all. NATO's Article 5, rebuilt from scratch in Islam's holiest city. Look at what each partner brings. Turkey has NATO's second largest military. Saudi Arabia is the world's largest oil exporter. And Pakistan is the only Muslim-majority country on Earth with nuclear weapons. Al Jazeera reported it directly. 5 months of being hit by Iranian missiles has raised serious questions in Riyadh about the reliability of its long-standing American security umbrella. So the Gulf built a second umbrella, one with a nuclear power under it, one that doesn't have a phone number in Washington. As of this week, 33 ships made it through the Strait of Hormuz in 4 days. Before the war, that waterway carried a fifth of the planet's energy. Iran and Oman have agreed on coordinates for shipping lanes. A deal is close. Trump says the war can't go much longer. He's said that since March. And whenever it does end, the ledger will read like this. A mountain nobody can look inside. A missile shield spent down to a third of itself, with Ukrainian launchers going quiet to pay for it. $4 gas baked into an inflation curve that outlives the ceasefire. And a nuclear alliance signed in Mecca by 3 countries that decided, somewhere in these 5 months, that America was no longer a promise you could plan around. Isabella Gonzalez enlisted, trained, deployed, and died inside a single year. She was assigned to shoot down the incoming. Somewhere in a Pentagon spreadsheet, she is still listed as fighting ISIS.